Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, one and all. Hopefully my audio sounds all right. Had a wire go AWOL from my normal setup, so that's why you see this blue little sphere here, because she's my backup. So I hope you can hear me all right. Please let me know otherwise as we go through this. But hello. Anyway, enough of that. Had a couple technical difficulties today, but we finally made it and we're here. All right, so Stretchy stream, a little bit different for this platform. Little bit of background on the inspiration for Stretchy stream. I am a huge fan of flexibility training, and I love, just personally, I love being super bendy, and stretching is something that has always been a big part of my movement practice and my mindfulness practice. It's just a way that a way that helps me feel good about myself, and I always find stretching is underrated. We warm up and cool down are kind of basic ways of stretching our bodies and making sure that we're giving our muscles a little bit of extra love. But it adds time to our workout. So I understand why it's easy to want to give stretching the chop before or after your workout, but it's hugely important. It prevents injury. It guarantees that your muscles will be able to move in a full range of motion. So it's important not only as a preventative measure, but a way to enhance your movement practice and make you stronger and more efficient with your movement. It also allows you to access muscles in ways that maybe when you're a little tighter, you are not as efficiently able to. So stretching is underrated. I hope that through Stretchy Stream, I'm able to maybe inspire some apprehensive individuals to really get on the flexibility train and not even do crazy backbendy contortionist stuff. We don't need to do these things. We're going to focus on front splits today, but you really don't have to do a front split. It's not a requirement to functional movement, right? It's kind of a nice to have cherry on top. But I hope I can inspire you maybe to touch your toes, or maybe add in that little stretch for your cool down after your spin class or your run. It's super important. So anyway, I can gush about stretching forever and ever, but I'm not gonna bore you with that. Let's talk about what we're gonna focus on today. So front splits are we're starting with front splits because I would say it's probably the most popular flexibility goal for most individuals. I know it's something that I strove for many, many years, and finally was able to commit to a practice over quarantine in New York City, where I live, and I was able to get my splits in 2020, finally, all the way down, right and left leg in the front, and that was a huge milestone for me. It's something I've always wanted to do. So to get there, I tried a lot of different types of stretching, a lot of different styles of movement, a lot of different durations of stretching. So I really incorporated everything to develop a really well-rounded, diverse flexibility practice where you're not only stretching your muscles and your body, but you're also encouraging proper technique and moving into those poses in a safe manner where your range of motion is moving through the right channels to make those movements happen. So it's not just about whacking your leg up to your face. It's important that you're doing it correctly. So, because we don't want our leg to come flying out of our hip socket. That probably would never happen, but you never know. Just, make sure you're doing it safely and with some technique. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Front splits, even if you don't want to get your front splits, these exercises and stretches that we're going to move through are really good for any movement practice and really good to incorporate into what you're currently doing now, especially for my runners and my bikers, where I know we need some tightness in the calves and the hamstrings and the quads, but, we still want to be able to maybe touch our toes. So these exercises we're going to move through are great to add into any cool down for any practice. Let's get started. There's a warm-up included in today's flow, so we're going to start with some movement, loosen up the hip joints, go through the muscles that we're going to stretch, and then we'll get into the longer holding static stretches. You don't necessarily need anything for your practice today, but if you're a first-time stretcher or you're feeling a little tight, I would highly recommend some yoga blocks, some books, just to place your hands on to help guide your positions a little more effectively if you're feeling like you can't really move through the range of motion today or need a little bit of assist. I have 2 levels of yoga blocks here. I have a shorter stack and a thicker little box there. I use them on and off. Just so we're clear, using props doesn't necessarily make things easier. They can be really important in helping us find the correct technique in these stretches. Final disclaimer. Flexibility is very finicky. Flexibility is something that does not happen overnight, and then once you get it, it doesn't stay. It's a fleeting moment in time. I have days where I wake up and I'm super bendy and I can do things that I never thought I could do and feel just like a nice wavy Ditto from Pokemon. And then the next day I will wake up and feel like I've never stretched a muscle in my entire life. So be patient with your body, meet it where it is today. I will provide modifications to challenge or to simplify. So just make sure that you're paying attention and making sure that technique comes first. Finding your edge and challenging yourself and finding that discomfort is one thing. Pain is another thing. We don't want pain. If anything hurts, stop the exercise and join back for either the next exercise or modify to simplify so that we don't hurt ourselves. So don't hurt yourself. Listen to your body, be safe, and if you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat. All right, so our main focus for our front splits today. What makes up our front split? So the primary muscle groups that we're going to be stretching are our quads, fronts of our thighs, our hamstrings, the backs of our thighs, and our hip flexors. So thinking about your bikini line, kind of the front of your bikini line is where we're going to be stretching today. These are the main muscle groups that need to be stretched in order to get down into your splits. We will also work on a little bit of a release for other muscles such as the glutes and the calves, and even the feet. We'll get a little stretch for the feet, as these muscles can influence how we move into moving the larger muscle groups. There's a yoga teacher, Sarah Beth, that has a great quote where if you can't relax the smallest muscles or you can't stretch the smallest muscles, how can you translate that to your larger muscles? So There will be a focus for today's class, but we're also going to kind of get a full body situation here. So I hope you enjoy. And let's get started. All right, so we will start in a quadruped position. Just to get your bearings, we will take a little bit of wrist bearing for our warm-up. So just rocking a little forward and back, maybe some circles on the wrist to just let them know that we're going to start working. Get your bearings. See where your body is in space today. Are we carrying tension in any particular area? Are we favoring one side over another? And start to just find your center. Maybe find a little bit more symmetry in this quadruped position. Maybe some cat-cow. Get a little gooey for this one little moment here. Check in. Remind your body that it's time to do some work. All right, from here, from your quadruped position, your wrists should be under your shoulders. You're going to walk your hands just a couple of inches forward, lift your knees, and press back into a down dog position. So, in this position, you want to make sure that all 10 fingers are pressing evenly into the mat. You feel your shoulder blades gliding down your back, but also wrapping towards your front. Chest is long, reaching your sternum towards your thighs. Legs are as straight as possible. And I am currently hip-width distance apart with my feet. If you need to take a wider stance to feel a little bit more stable in this position, you can do so. So find which foot placement works best for you. And we're just going to take a little pedal of the legs. Bending one knee and then the other, heavying the heel towards the mat, trying to keep the weight even in the tripod of the foot. So the base of the big toe, the base of the pinky toe, and then the middle of that heel. Breathing easy. Just this alone will start building some heat in the whole body. Let's go 4, 3, 2, and 1. From here, lower both heels down. Lift your right leg behind you. Find a little high kick here. So squeeze your glute. Feel the middle back of the thigh lift to the ceiling. And you want your hips to be square. We'll open up the hip in a moment, but we really want to start thinking about those square hips because that's what we're going to find in our splits today. So with the square hips, the leg might not feel like it can get that high. That's okay. From here, now we're going to bend the knee, wrap the inner thigh open, and draw the knee up to the ceiling while keeping the chest square to the floor. So squeeze your glute, wrap your inner thigh, and find a little attitude position. Now from here, keeping the hips stacked one on top of the other, straighten your leg into a penché. In this position, you may be able to get the leg a little higher. Find a lot of opposition. Someone's pulling on your toes and someone's pulling on the crown of your head towards the mat. One big inhale. On your exhale, square your hips off again. Lower that foot down to the mat and then bend your knees. Take a child's pose. Shake it out for a moment. You can always hang out in down dog here if you'd like. If you're still in down dog, get ready for side 2. If you're in child's pose, bring yourself back to your down dog. We bend the left leg, send it up to the ceiling, squaring the hip points off. Think that you have eyeballs on your hip points and they're staring down towards the mat. Pressing evenly into the hands still. Then from here, bend your knee, wrap the inner thigh. Try and get the knee to point up to the ceiling and keeping the chest square. So we have a twist happening through our whole body. Inhale here. Exhale, extend the leg. Penché. That's the fancy ballet term, but it basically means a high kick leg with the hips stacked. From here, square your hips off once more. Lower the foot down. Bend your knees if you'd like, take a child's pose. Or if you're staying in your down dog, separate your legs mat width distance apart. Coming out of your child's pose to join us in down dog, everyone separate your legs wider than the width of your mat. Walk your hands back to meet your feet, finding our wide forward fold. So from here, hands should be able to touch the mat. I want you to feel more of the weight towards the balls of your feet. It's easy to want to hang back in the heels and maybe hyperextend through the knees. Take a soft bend of the knees and shift your weight forward more to the balls of your feet. You're going to get a deeper stretch through your hamstrings and maybe even a little stretch in the lower back. From here, finding our fold, take a deep bend of the knees, chest and thighs will meet, and then try to keep the chest and thighs together as you straighten your legs, keeping your weight a little more forward. Inhale, bend. Exhale, straighten. Inhale, bend. Exhale, tail up to the ceiling, crown of the head down. 2 more times. Think of diving your head down and maybe even through your legs. Last time. And lift up. From here, heel toe your feet until they're about inner hip width distance apart. You can always take a wider stance if this is not accessible to you today. Inner hip width is where your hips, where your bony hip marks are, and you find that line all the way down. Hands are still on the mat. We're going to take a bend and straighten 5 more times here and start to feel if this is a little different than the wider stance. To advance, maybe you hold on to the backs of the legs and really draw that chest towards your thighs. 2 more here. Last time. From here, walk your hands out into your down dog. Similar to what we did at the start of our flow with our little prance of the feet, this time both feet are going to lift and then heavy the heels down to the floor. Lift your heels and lower down. Think of the thigh bones sliding up into your core as the legs lift. Let's go 3 more. And 2. Keep your gaze down towards your abs. Last time. Lower down onto your knees and take a couple cat-cows here. Maybe pound out the feet a little bit. You can also take an up dog position here with the knees down or floating, just making sure that the chest is reaching through your shoulders. There's not a light right in my face. All right, from here, coming out of this position, nice full body warm up, but we're gonna do a heavy leg focus here. So we're gonna do just a little more warm up for the legs. And this is gonna be inspired by our classic sidekick series from Pilates. If you haven't taken a Pilates class with me, you will have a chance this Friday, 7:30 EST. We're gonna do, probably gonna do these exercises in this class. So this will just be another way for us to open up our hips, finding some turnout and some movement in the joint, and then we'll also release our glutes with some stretch. So from here, you'll come to lie down on your mat. Option here to prop up your head with a bent elbow, hand to head, or you can lie down on your bicep like a pillow. Up to you. Making sure that tailbone to head is lined up with the back edge of your mat. From here, bend your knees and come into what I call a side-seated position. So your legs are at a 90-degree angle. Your shins are parallel to the front edge of your mat. I like to call it the side-seated position because if I was standing above you, you should look like you're sitting in a chair from a profile. From here, you're going to lift your top leg up and straighten it. trying to keep the leg aligned with the hip. From here, point your toe, and right now your knee should be facing front, square to the front. Without moving your hip, wrap your inner thigh, turn your leg out, so knee points towards the ceiling. And then bring it back. Maybe you turn it more internally towards the mat. Wrap the inner thigh, we open the leg, and then internal rotation back in. So our hip isn't moving. So if you feel bobbing forward and back, try to isolate that thigh bone moving in the hip socket. Imagine the top of your thigh bone was a doorknob and you're turning that doorknob with your hand. Let's go 2 more. Last time. Find your start position, flex your foot. We're going to swing the leg, kick it front, point, brush it back. Finding a little bit of range of motion through the leg. Same thing, that square hip. Stack and square. They don't move, just the leg. This will be important later on. 2 more. Last time. From here, bring the leg to float back to that hip height start position. Flex your foot, lift the leg up maybe a couple inches, maybe a little higher. Point, lower it down. Flex, lift, feel the outside of the leg work. Point, feel the inner thigh engage towards the mat. 2 more times. Flex to lift, point to lower. Last time, flex to lift, and point to lower. One more thing here, grand finale bicycle. We swing the leg front, bend your knee towards your chest, drag your heel towards your booty, and then extend the leg behind you. Same thing, we swing it front, knee to chest, heel to booty, extend long. One more time in this direction, trying to keep the leg at the same height as it travels. Now we reverse, heel to booty, knee to chest, extend it long. Swing it behind you with grace and beauty. So when I say swing, I don't necessarily mean swing, because swing kind of implies that we throw the leg around, and we want to find a lot of control here. Last time. So it's a swing in air quotes. Lower your leg down to your start position, press yourself up to seated, and we move into a little more hip opening. So this is going to be very flattering position. But you're going to sit. I'm going to face you so you can better see the exercise. Your legs are going to come out the width of your silhouette. So we found that inner hip distance before with the bony landmarks of our hip points being the reference. For this one, I want you to find the width of your silhouette. So the width of the outside, your outermost part of your hips. Hands are going to come behind you. Palms will come down to the mat. Fingertips will face away from you. And roll your shoulders open and try to find as straight of a spine as possible. We don't want to slouch here. Even though we're not doing Pilates technically, I will not tolerate poor posture. We're going to do some opening of the hips. So from here, without moving the torso, lower your knees to the right. So we have a 90-90 position with the legs. And maybe your legs touch the ground, maybe they don't. All valid. We're going to keep flowing through this. From here, lift the legs, come back through center, and lower them down to the left. Same thing, trying to keep the body nice and upright, and keeping that 90-90 with the legs. You should start to feel a stretch and a little bit of movement right in that socket. Let's flow with a little movement. Take it around. You might hear some popping, like I just did. Let's go 5 more like this. If you want a fun mobility challenge, you can bring your arms to a genie position and try and take this without the arms. Let's go 3 more. 2 more. Last one. So finding pause on the left side. So your left leg will be in front of you, shin parallel to the front edge of your mat, and then your other shin parallel to the back Still maintaining that 90-90. From here, this is where you square your hips off to the front of your leg. So this will look similar to a pigeon position in yoga, except we don't have the leg behind us. This will be a little more accessible, stretching the hip socket, but also getting into our glute, which can be a limiting factor for our splits. So from here, take an inhale, find a long flat back. Exhale, find a hinge forward over your leg. And use your hands to help. They can come to the floor, they can come to your leg. Find what works for you today. And I want you to find a long flat back. No rounding today for class. We spend enough time rounded. Let's find that long spine. And then from here, we're going to hang out here for a little bit. So find where you need the most stretch. Maybe here is good. Maybe stretching the arms forward and coming all the way down is where you find your deepest stretch. Maybe it's twisting more towards the knee or more away from the knee. Everyone's going to be a little different here. Either way, find your stretch not at the lowest point. As we hold this, you will slowly deepen your stretch, so don't find your end point right away. Let's take 2 more breaths here. The silence is a little awkward. Last one. I totally encourage you play music wherever you are watching. I don't like to play music because, number 1, I want you to be paying attention to my instruction. But number 2, you might not like my taste in music, so you should put on what you like. Let's come out of this glute stretch that feels so good. Come back through center, and we're going to switch to the other side. Lying down on our side waist. So the leg that you didn't work the last time, for me, this is my right leg on top. That's going to come on top. And then lining up as you did before. So if you'd like, you can always take that bicep pillow or bend at the elbow. If you really want a challenge, take that front hand away and bring it behind your head. We start with our internal-external rotation. So lifting the leg up to hip height, you wrap that inner thigh, turn out the leg, and turn it back in. If you need to, bring your hand to your hip and check. Does the whole torso or the hip open up when you turn out and in? It better not. I'm watching you. I'm kind of watching you. Let's go 3 more. 2 more. Find length as you wrap that thigh around. So it's not just turning, you're lengthening as you spiral. From here, flex your foot, swing the leg front, point, squeeze the glute as you reach it back. Flex, kick forward, point, squeeze your booty as you bring the leg back. 2 more times. Last time. This time we bring the foot to a hover, flex it, lengthen the leg to lift it up, point, reach, lower it down. Lengthen to lift, and lengthen to lower. Create your own resistance. Don't just throw the leg around. That's the beautiful thing about Pilates, is that you don't need all these fancy tools. You just use your own body. It's a powerful thing. Let's go 1 more. Bring your leg to a hover and hold. We go for our bicycle ride. Swing the leg front. Bend your knee towards your chest. Drag it towards your booty. Extend it behind you. Swing front. Bend your knee to chest. Heel to booty. Extend it behind you. 1 more in this direction. I have to slightly modify because I have a video game cabinet. That's just a little too close. The suspense. Bend your heel towards your booty. We reverse. Knee to chest. Extend it long in front of you. Reach. Extend through the heel. Infinitely lengthen through the moving leg. You have 1 more here. Grand finale. Lower the leg down. Bring yourself up to seated, and we take our hip opening again on the other side. This is I can't take all the credit for this 90-90 hip opener. I learned it from the incredible Tom Merrick on YouTube. He does a lot of calisthenic body weight exercises and a lot of really awesome flexibility training videos that I highly recommend you check out. I credit him with helping me get my splits. So this was one thing that I learned from him. From here, let's bring our legs over to the right. So we're just going to take that same movement that we did before. Bring yourself back around. You can take it with the hands behind you, or you can lift your arms up and see how you do. It's a fun little mobility challenge, and it really works your abs in a way that surprises you the first time you do it. You don't realize how much you need your core to move your legs. Let's go 3 more. 2 more. Last time, find the side that you didn't do the last time. Sometimes I don't like to use right and left because I find I mix them up all the time. So whatever side that you haven't worked yet, 90-90. It's all right if that hip isn't fully down to the mat. That's all right. You're stretching it either way. You'll find your long, tall spine. Take an inhale. Exhale, flat back hinge over the leg. So same thing here. Making sure that the hip stays square. Keeping the legs at 90-90. And then finding what works for you. Maybe it's a turn towards the knee, turn away from the knee. Maybe you're lifted all the way. That's totally valid. Breathing easy, nonetheless. Just like stretching's underrated, breathing is also underrated. Breathing helps regulate our parasympathetic nervous system. It helps us hold stretches longer. It helps de-stress. So find a rhythm to your breath. And then slowly deepen your stretch the longer you hold it. That's the fun thing for me about stretching, is always finding where my edge is for that day and then finding different ways to challenge it. But I'm also an uber stretching geek. It also gets very intense and sometimes I don't want to do it. I should be a little more clear about that. I don't love stretching all the time, but I love it most of the time. Let's come all the way up to tall. And from here, we're going to come to our quadruped position once more. So I think we're pretty warm. Always, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I would love to hear your feedback or answer any questions you might have. And we're going to start getting into our more static stretching. We're going to start moving slowly towards that. So now we're really going to get into those quads and those hamstrings. And I encourage you to keep it light, keep it fun. It's easy to get frustrated with these things because, stretching's finicky. It's a pain in the butt sometimes. But I'm here to have some fun with you. Always keep it light, always keep it fun. This is not my favorite dynamic stretch of all time, but I know it's important, so I'm with you here on this one. So finding your quadruped position, you're just going to bring your right leg forward into your lunge. And this is a good time, if you have your blocks, to bring them to the sides of your mat. I'll bring them here just in case I want them. You're going to come into your lunge position. For now, we're going to keep the chest glued to your thigh. And for now, we just want to make sure the knee is tracking over the ankle so that we have that 90-degree angle. Working our way down the body, like I said, chest is glued to your thigh and your hips are square. So making sure that that left leg that's long behind you, your left hip is square towards the mat, and that the top and that your foot is pressing evenly into the mat. You can tuck your toes for this one. We're going to move through a little dynamic stretch. So finding your lunge, pressing your pelvis down towards the mat, and then from here, straightening that front leg, flexing the foot, we find a splits prep. all the while trying to keep your chest glued to your thigh. Let's start flowing. So we bend into that lunge, maybe the chest lifts a little bit, and then pressing back, hip stays square, chest stays long, spine stays long. Let's go 3 more times here, bending and stretching. This is that range of motion that's going to be important to safely get into these splits. Last time. And then from here, bend back into your lunge and hold. Always option to use your blocks here. We're going to lift the chest away from our thighs, and hands either come to your knees, come to your hips, or they can come to your blocks. Finding a long spine here. I want you to feel your pelvis drop down and forward, almost like you're scooping your pubic bone up towards your face in a big C shape. You can release the back toes if you'd like. That's what we want to feel in our splits. It's less about the forward motion of the leg and more about getting that pelvis down low. So the spine stays tall, but you want to feel that drop and that scoop forward of the pelvis. So you're not only getting the stretch in the inner thigh, but you're also getting that stretch in the hip flexor and through the front of the quad here. Hold for 3, 2, 1. From here, lower your hands down to the mat. Now from here, if you're able to, bend your knee, bring your heel towards your booty. Grab onto your foot for a quad stretch. If this is not going to happen, totally valid. You can come to stand and take your standing quad stretch like so. So just bending your knee, making sure that the legs stay zipped together, and grabbing onto your foot, drawing the pelvis forward. If you're still hanging out in that lunge quad fusion here, same thing. Think about dropping the pelvis down and forward. It's easy to want to lift the booty back here. We want to think of dropping it down and squeeze your left glute. That's going to bring your hips more into extension, and you're going to get a little more out of this stretch. Let's release that. Come back, and we're going to take a little foot stretch here. Personal favorite of mine. Coming to kneel. Feet are going to be flat down, so tops of the feet are down, all 10 toes are into the mat, and you're going to come and sit back on your heels. If this is way too intense, you can always separate your legs, sit on a block at any setting, or double them up, and just hang out, stretching your feet, maybe getting a little quad stretch. And now we're going to add on. Bring your hands forward, tuck your toes. Same thing, sit back on your heels. Now this can feel especially intense, so if it feels too spicy, you can always lay off and just come in and out where you feel your edge is at today. If not, sit on your feet. You're going to get a nice strong stretch through the arch of your foot and into your toes. I'm a city girl. I'm on my feet a lot. It's really important to give your feet a little bit of love. All right, let's come out of this. If you want, take a little tap tap of the toes. Maybe we do some tap dancing later, I don't know. That would be fun. And then back to your quadruped position, bringing that left leg forward. So moving through that same dynamic stretch as before. Hips are square, chest is towards the thigh. You draw a little forward, find that stretch in your lunge, and then draw your hips back, find that long splits prep, trying to keep your chest glued to your thigh. Bending forward stretch, and back. If your chest doesn't stay glued to your thigh, That's okay. If you can't move through the range of motion as deeply as maybe I am, that's also okay. Stretching is finicky, and it's all about consistency. The more you do this, the deeper you'll be able to go. Let's finish up here. Coming into our lunge one more time. Untucking the toes and lifting up, bringing the hands to the blocks, the hips, or the knee. Same thing here, thinking of that pelvis drawing down and forward. Hips stay square. And sometimes I even like to take the hand on the side of the back leg and kind of just press forward into that hip just to make sure that I'm still square, but also to get a little bit more of a stretch through my hip flexor itself. Breathing easy. And then from here, lift up, bring both hands down, taking your quad stretch, bend your back leg, grabbing on to your foot, and taking your quad stretch. Thinking of drawing the pelvis forward. Couple of ways to deepen this, other than making sure that your pelvis is down and forward. You can start to draw the heel towards your booty. You can also lift up with both hands on the leg, and same thing, long flat back, sink your hips forward. And like always, sometimes I need to use this with a block as well. So a lot of different ways to advance this. Release your quad stretch, come back to your quadruped, and either sit back onto your feet or take a child's pose. We are slowly coming into our more static stretches. From here, we're going to start moving into some supine positions, so that's lying down on our back. One thing I forgot to mention at the start of class, if you want to grab it now, if you have a strap of any kind, it could be a belt for your pants, it could be a TheraBand, it could be a string, a cat toy. I've done that before. Anything to pull your leg towards you. That's a long kind of band-like thing. Grab that now, and we'll meet lying down in our supine position on our mat. Moving my blocks out of the way. We can't hang out here for too long because, at least for me, I'll probably fall asleep. So we're gonna get moving shortly. So bringing the legs long onto the mat, I just want you to curl your head, neck, and shoulders up. You can either use your hands to help, or you can just look and just make sure that you're straight. We can kind of be a little off kilter, so just making sure that you're nice and straight, and then lower your head, neck, and shoulders down. From here, you're going to bend your right knee into your chest. Option here to grab onto the back of the thigh, or if you want to go deeper, you can hold onto the foot with both hands, or use your band around the ball of your foot. We're going to warm up the hamstring just a little more. Same thing, dynamic stretch, moving through that range of motion. Without shifting your thigh, can you straighten your leg up to the ceiling? And then bend, bring it back in. Maybe the leg comes closer to your chest. Stretch the leg up. And bend, bring it in. Pull the thigh closer to your chest. Lengthen the leg. Maybe the leg doesn't go all the way straight. Totally valid. Go where your leg can go today. Last time here, you're going to straighten and hold. Option here to walk up your leg to your calf, ankle, or feet, or use your band to pull the leg towards you. So as you pull the leg towards you, you can bend the elbows and take the tension out of the shoulders. Keep them gliding down your back and just bring that leg closer to your face. If you need to take a micro bend of the leg here, that's totally fine. Finding length, square hips to the ceiling, And making sure that that leg that's long on the mat, we don't forget about it. That knee stays up to the ceiling. This stretching stuff is not just relaxing. We got a lot going on here. A lot of things to keep in mind about. Those square hips are super important. All right, from here, I think we've had enough of that one. Bend your knee into your chest. From here, just take the leg across your body. Find a quick supine twist here. You'll get a little release through the side of the hip, but also we all need more twisting in our lives. Twisting is my favorite thing. So maybe I'm a little bit biased, but who doesn't love a little thoracic rotation? Bring your leg back through center. Option here to bring the strap to the ball of your foot, or you can just use your hands. Open up the leg either bent to the side or take it out all the way straight. Getting a stretch through the side of the leg, making sure that that opposite hip stays down and square to the ceiling. We could turn this stretching thing into a drinking session. Sip and stretch. Take a drink every time I say, keep your hips square. Bring your leg back through center and straighten your leg down on the mat. We would be very drunk already. Bend your left leg into your chest or your right leg, whichever one you didn't do yet. Same thing here, just take another check. Take a drink, hips stay square to the ceiling, knee stays square to the ceiling. It's easy to kind of turn the leg out, turn the leg in. It gets a little wonky here. Think of that leg lengthening long onto the mat, but also heavying it down towards the floor. Grabbing behind the thigh, ankle, or foot. Pull the knee into your chest, and then straighten your leg as far as it'll go. And bend it back in. We're not symmetrical beings, so if one side's a little less bendy than the other, that's totally okay. My left side is definitely my less stretchy side. 2 more. I can instantly feel it. It's wild. Last time, lift it up and hold. From here, walk your hands up your leg or hold on to your strap. Now you see how my neck is lifting up and I'm kind of arcing my back? I should not be doing this. Relax my shoulders. Nothing should change in my upper body. And then I just bend my elbows to pull the leg towards me. If you're here, that's fine. If you're here with the leg towards your face, that's also fine. Just don't tense up that upper back. Even I have to remind myself. And just breathe here. Shaking, a little shaking's okay. Doesn't mean anything dangerous. Just means you're working. A little shaking's okay. And then bend the knee into your chest. Let's take it across the body for our supine twist. It's less important that that knee comes to the floor. It's more important that your shoulders stay square and evenly pressing into the mat. So if you ever felt bummed out that your knee didn't hit the floor in the supine twist, I hope you feel a little better now. Because I was like that once too. I was like, I can't get my knee all the way down. I'm not flexible enough. Turns out I was doing it right the whole time. Bring yourself back through center. Same thing, either keeping the knee bent and opening the leg up, or you can take the leg out straight to the side and be your true rockette fantasy. Making sure that that hip doesn't lift up, that we heavy it down towards the floor. And just breathing. Easier said than done, I know. Bring yourself back through center. And then from here, bring your arms up to the ceiling. Roll yourself up to seated. And we'll take a quick little forward fold over the legs. So from here, if you need to sit on a block, go right ahead and take that right now. It frees up a little space in your hips to get a little more range of motion. If not, you can sit on the mat, take a bend to the knees, or straighten the legs. We'll start with our round back, so just finding a little bit of a C curve in the spine, diving the head towards the knees. Bend of the knees here, totally fine to do. You can also utilize your strap here if you want. And just drop the head. Keep the upper body tensionless. Now from here, lift your spine, find a flat back. Think long diagonal spine and reach for your toes. Maybe you grab underneath your feet. Maybe you're here. It's good to do both round and flat back because you're accessing different parts of your hamstrings and your back. Fun fact for me, I get a little bit more of a back stretch here and less of a hamstring stretch. But it depends on the body. It's all good stuff to stretch. Let's take that one more time. Round your spine over, really drop the head. Maybe you pull yourself towards your knees a little more. And then finding your flat back once more. Coming out, you can bring the hands behind you, shake it out. If you want, take a little back bend, lifting the chest towards the sky. All right, it's time. We're gonna go for it. It's time for splits. So coming back to that quadruped position. Here we go. Have your blocks on the ready. On any setting that works for you. I may need mine. I was doing this 2 days ago and was using all 4 of these. I was getting real fancy. All right, so we're gonna go into it. We've got the quads, the hamstrings, the hip flexors, the hip socket, all warmed up and a little stretched and ready to go. So let's give it a try. We'll see how low I can get today. It really depends on the day, truly, and we're gonna witness that today. So starting with the right leg in front, we're gonna find that lunge position that we had before when we were doing our splits prep and lunge dynamic stretch. From here, we're just gonna sit in this lunge just once more, really prioritizing the square of the hips. And that drop of the pelvis. That's what's really going to drive the depth of the split. Now from here, just take a quick splits prep once more. Same thing, thinking about squaring the hips. All right, here we go. We're going to bend the knee forward in our lunge. Either blocks are with you or they're not. You're going to slowly walk this front leg forward and hold. We're not going to go all the way yet. Come back into your half split. Move through this a couple of times and see if this is where you're at today. If you think you can go a little deeper, you're going to walk those front toes forward, that back leg back, keeping the hips square. Maybe you move through that dynamic stretch a little more. Find where you need to iron out the tightness. And then if you can, the legs come all the way out into your split. So this is where those square hips and that drop of the pelvis is super important. Thinking of scooping that pubic bone forward and up. Squeeze the glute of the left leg and feel as if you're being pulled from the bottom of your pelvic floor to the mat and through the crown of your head to the ceiling. So there's a lot of opposition happening here. If you need to, I'll demo with blocks. On any setting, you can use this to elevate your hands And that can help you get a little more range of motion in helping to square off your hips. If your hips are not perfectly squared, that's okay. That will come with time. All right, let's come out of this. That was a long time to hold the split. But that was about 30-40 seconds, maybe a little more. You always want to hold your static stretches for at least 30 seconds to get the full benefit of the stretch. That's about how long it takes for the signals in your muscle to stop firing on. So you have different receptors in your muscles that when you're stretching are going to turn on and say, no, I don't want you to do that. You're stretching the muscle. We want to hold it long enough so that those receptors stop firing. We're basically kind of tricking our body a little bit, which is interesting. But it's important that we have those receptors as part of our muscles because it prevents injury. Anyway, enough biology class. Let's do some more splits. So we're going to do our left leg. Left leg comes to the front into our lunge. Just hanging out in this position once more. If you would like to take a quad stretch here, you feel you need a little more stretch there, go ahead. Just squeezing that right glute is going to bring your quad and hip flexor into a lot more stretch. Really thinking about those square hips and that drop down and forward of the pelvis. From here, press yourself back into your splits prep one more time. Getting your bearings once more. Being mindful about your spine and your upper body. Trying to take the tension away. And then here we go. Bending back into that leg. You can use the blocks to assist. You'll scoot your front foot a little further front. Your back foot a little further back. And then flow through that dynamic stretch a little bit. See if this is going to work for you today. Maybe you're here. That's fine. Keep moving. Maybe you go all the way down. Maybe you find your stopping point today, and that's where you hold. Maybe you grab your blocks. You've got a lot of options here. It's really important to make this safe for you and where you're at today. Really thinking about lifting the chest, squeezing that back glute, drawing the pelvis down and forward. Big breaths, big rhythmic breaths to calm yourself. Can feel a little crazy. And the longer you hold, the deeper your stretch will begin to feel. That's correct grammar. Woo! All right, let's come out of that. Nice and controlled. And then we'll just take a seat on our mat and just bring your feet together in the butterfly stretch. Flap your wings. Scoot around a little bit. And that's our stretchy session. Woohoo! I hope you enjoyed and I hope you learned something today. Front splits are my favorite thing to do. And it's been a really fun journey. And you learn a lot about your body when you stretch in ways that, maybe more traditional strength training or other types of movement practices don't access as much. So it's good to keep the stretch going. Keep stretching, everyone. I can't recommend it more than anything else. Stretching. Just keep stretching. If you're having a hard time incorporating stretching into your day, I highly recommend maybe adding it to your morning or evening routine. Even if I have a rest day where I'm not working out, I always stretch. It's part of my morning routine. I do about 10 minutes of stretching as part of my morning after I have my coffee and eat my breakfast, and then before I go to bed. If I don't do a workout in the evening, I always make sure to do at least 10 minutes of stretching before I go to bed. It's just a really nice way to start the day and wind down. It's a really nice stress reliever and just a nice way to release any tension before going to bed or starting your day. If you have any special requests for your upcoming Stretchy streams or any feedback on today's debut Stretchy stream, I would love to hear from you. And if you would like to join me again, I will be teaching a Pilates class on Friday, 7:30 p.m. EST. It's for Pride. It's called Pilates and Pride. So it's going to be super playful, super fun, and I'm going to wear a super cool shirt. And I hope you can join me then and wear a super cool shirt as well. All right. Thank you for joining me, and happy movement, and have a great rest of your day, your night, your afternoon, wherever you are in the world. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Bye.